Imagine waking up one day and realizing the wealthiest people around you legally pay almost nothing in taxes. But the deeper you look, the more you notice patterns that don't add up. And today we're pulling that curtain back. This isn't a rant about the rich. It's a journey into hidden structures that shape the UK's financial landscape. And once you hear them, you won't see money the same way again. We're talking secret arrangements, old historical loopholes, and financial chess moves so clever they feel unreal. Yet every part of it is perfectly legal. And here's the crazy part. Most people walk past these loopholes every day, never realizing how quietly they're used, while billionaires treat them like a cheat code in a video game. So, before we go deeper, ask yourself this simple question. If the system allows a billionaire to pay less tax than someone working a normal job, who built that system in the first place? Because once you see the history behind it, you'll start connecting dots you didn't even know existed. And trust me, you'll want to stay till the end for the twist. But let's start at the heart of the mystery, a loophole so old that even kings used versions of it, yet it still silently runs in modern Britain. It starts with one word, non-dam. A concept most people ignore, but for billionaires, it's the first key to the kingdom. And honestly, it's almost poetic how simple it is. A non-dam means you live in the UK, but claim your true home is somewhere else. So your foreign income magically avoids UK tax. And guess what foreign income is where billionaires store their biggest numbers? This isn't shady. It's literally part of UK law. And the moment someone qualifies, they unlock a tax-saving power the average citizen could only dream of. Now here's where it gets wild. You don't need to move abroad. You just need to declare your domicile as elsewhere. And suddenly your offshore millions stay invisible to HMRC. You might be thinking, but surely the UK closes this loophole? Yet every time it's debated, the system somehow survives, almost like someone powerful is protecting it. And that leads us to our next twist, the strategically placed trusts, those quiet financial vaults where wealth sits untouched, shielded by history and paperwork. Trusts aren't new. They're medieval tools originally used by knights heading into battle. But modern billionaires use them for something far safer, avoiding taxes. Think about this. If you don't technically own your wealth because your trust does, then taxes can't touch you. And suddenly billions float outside the normal system. And here's a microhook. Trust laws were never designed for modern wealth, yet they somehow fit like a perfect glove. And that coincidence feels a little too convenient, doesn't it? Many UK billionaires don't own their houses, yachts, planes, or companies. Their trusts do. And that separation creates a shield you almost have to admire. It gets even more interesting when you follow the money trails to places like Jersey, the British Virgin Islands, and Guernsey, where UK links territories offer low-tax systems with open arms. These aren't random islands. They're strategically connected to the UK's history. And some historians argue Britain quietly designed them as safe zones for wealth. And here's the shocker. Money stored there isn't illegal. It's simply sitting in a different rule book. One that ordinary citizens never get to use. Now picture this. You're a billionaire making millions every month. Yet by routing that money offshore through a trust, your tax bill becomes almost laughably small. If you're wondering, how is this even allowed? The answer hides in old laws that were never updated. And every loophole you'll hear today has a historical root. For example, the UK once encouraged wealthy foreign merchants to settle in London. So the government created incentives that still exist today. Even though the world has completely changed, these incentives became the foundation for the non-dam rule, and once billionaires discovered it, the system evolved into something far bigger. And here's the micro cliffhanger. The deeper you follow this history, the more you realize the UK quietly benefits from hosting billionaire wealth. London became a global financial hub, partly because billionaires knew they'd face friendlier tax treatment here than in most countries, creating a magnetic pull. Billions of pounds flow through London every day because of these old rules. And the UK economy loves that, even if the average taxpayer doesn't know it. But let's get practical. How does a billionaire actually pay zero tax in real life? The steps are shockingly simple and surprisingly elegant. Step 1. Don't take a salary. Because salaries are taxed, instead borrow money from your own assets, and suddenly your income becomes a loan. Loans aren't taxable. which means billionaires can spend millions every year using borrowed money while their real wealth stays untouched. Step 2. Store wealth in a trust outside the UK. Let the trust grow offshore and avoid UK taxes as long as the money stays out of the country. Step 3. Claim non-dam status. Link your roots to a foreign country and leave the UK with no legal right to tax your offshore empire. Simple, clean, all legal, and used widely by those who understand the game, while millions believe it's impossible. And here comes another mini hook. Billionaire wealth doesn't move randomly. It moves like a chess piece, each step calculated for maximum tax advantage. Here's an example. A billionaire buys a £20 million property in London, but not under their own name. Instead, a foreign company owned by a trust holds it. When the property rises in value, they avoid UK capital gains tax because technically they didn't own the property. The offshore company did, and if they sell the company instead of the property, the tax becomes even smaller, sometimes disappearing entirely. Now think about this. While someone earning £40,000 a year pays income tax, NIVAT, council tax, and everything else, a billionaire can glide through without touching most of those. Nobody's breaking the law, they're just using a different map, a map the average person never gets to see. And that brings us to the biggest secret of all. Billionaires don't hide money. They hide ownership. And once ownership disappears, taxes become optional. It's like financial invisibility. Not illegal, just clever. And every time you think you've understood it, you discover another layer. Eberhard of remittance basis. It's a rule allowing non-dams to avoid tax unless they bring money into the UK, meaning they can keep offshore millions untouched forever. And guess what? Most billionaires simply never bring it in. Instead, they borrow against it, spend inside the UK, and remain technically tax efficient. Here's a question. If your wealth stays offshore and your spending money comes from loans, what exactly is the UK supposed to tax? That's the genius behind the system, and the reason billionaires sleep well at night while accountants do all the heavy lifting. Now let's dive into history again, because old British colonial systems created financial structures still used today, sometimes without intention. During the Empire era, Britain controlled global trade routes and built networks of territories with special tax rules to encourage wealthy traders. These territories didn't disappear. They just transformed into modern tax havens connected to the UK, forming a global web of low-tax zones. And yes, many UK billionaires quietly use them, taking advantage of a system built centuries ago for completely different purposes. Here's your halfway hook. What you're about to hear next will blow your mind, because it connects politics, money, and influence in ways that most people overlook. Some billionaires legally reduce tax by donating to charities they control, so the money stays within their ecosystem while lowering their taxable income. Others place family members on trust boards, allowing wealth to move through generations without ever being owned or taxed. And the cleverest ones build entire corporate structures where profit appears in low-tax countries, even if the business operates in the UK. You've seen this with global brands, but the same blueprint works beautifully for private billionaires too. And here's something interesting. Many UK laws unintentionally reward people who understand paperwork better than the system itself. For example, inheritance tax can be bypassed if wealth sits inside certain types of trusts for long enough, effectively protecting billions from ever being taxed. That's why rich families hire teams of specialists, not to hide money, but to organize it in a way that never triggers tax laws. And it works astonishingly well, so well that some call it wealth engineering, a perfectly legal art form. Imagine designing your finances like a blueprint, where every movement has a purpose and each adjustment increases efficiency. That's exactly how billionaire tax planning works. And if you're thinking this is too complicated for normal people, that's exactly the point. Complexity protects wealth like armor. Now let's talk about political influence, because this part of the story is subtle but powerful, and it explains why loopholes survive for decades. Many wealthy individuals fund political parties, charities, institutions, and research groups that shape policy conversations. Nobody's doing anything illegal, but influence naturally flows where money flows, and laws often evolve gently, not aggressively. This slow evolution means loopholes stay open far longer than expected, creating generational benefits for wealthy families. And here's a small twist. Even when a loophole gets closed, another one quietly appears, often hidden in pages of legal text that few people read. It's like the system bends rather than breaks, shifting to maintain stability in the financial ecosystem. Now picture this. A billionaire might own 20 companies, 5 trusts, and several offshore structures, all working together in perfect harmony. This isn't secrecy, it's architecture, and it's one reason why billionaire wealth looks almost untouchable. And here's a rhetorical question. If the system rewards complexity, why would anyone with resources choose simplicity? Simplicity gets taxed, complexity gets protected, and that's the hidden rule nobody teaches in school. But let's add another layer. UK tax law actually encourages investment, meaning if billionaires put money into startups, property, or infrastructure, they often get generous tax reliefs. So not only can they avoid taxes, they can also earn incentives for growing their wealth in useful places. This creates a narrative where the economy benefits from billionaire money, and the system ensures that their wealth stays in motion. It's not accidental. It's structural, built into the fabric of how modern Britain operates. And here's your next hook. What if I told you the biggest tax advantage billionaires have isn't offshore trusts or known-dumb status? The real advantage is time, because wealthy individuals plan decades ahead, while most people plan month to month. When you plan 30 years into the future, tax becomes a puzzle you slowly solve, rather than a bill you simply pay. Long-term planning creates tax-free generations, not tax-free years. And that's a level of strategy most people never learn. And here's where it all comes together. The UK allows these structures because it attracts global wealth, stabilizes London's financial markets, and fuels investment. Without billionaire incentives, London might lose its status as a global financial powerhouse, something politicians quietly worry about. So the system stays, evolves, adapts, and continues to serve those who understand it best. Think about this. Tax laws aren't written to punish wealth. They're written to manage it like a delicate balance the country relies on. And billionaires know exactly where that balance tips, allowing them to move strategically through the system. If you've been wondering why the UK feels like a magnet for global rich families, this is the real reason. The rules are friendly, predictable, and historically rooted in stability, making London the perfect home for complex wealth. And here's another subtle truth. The more wealth enters the UK, the stronger the system becomes, creating a cycle that benefits everyone at the top. Meanwhile, ordinary taxpayers follow a completely different system, one built for simplicity, not optimism. 2 systems, 1 country, and most people never notice they're standing inside a dual reality. Now let's talk about the twist you've been waiting for, the part almost nobody talks about openly. The real reason UK billionaires pay almost zero tax is because they rarely receive income. They simply control wealth without owning it. Control without ownership. That's the ultimate cheat code, because tax law is obsessed with ownership, not control. You can control an empire without owning a piece of it on paper, and that alone dismantles the entire tax structure. And here's the mind-blowing part. Even HMRC acknowledges that the system was never designed for modern billionaire structures. The rules are old, the tactics are new, and that mismatch creates opportunities on a massive scale. So when someone asks, how do UK billionaires pay zero tax? The answer is simple. They play a different game with a different rulebook. A rulebook built from history, loopholes, incentives, and decades of clever financial engineering. And once you see how the game works, you realize nothing about it is accidental. Every piece serves a purpose. The hidden truth is this. The tax system isn't broken. It's functioning exactly as it was designed to. Just not for everyone equally. And now the question shifts from how do they avoid tax to what would you do if you understood the system the way they do. So here's your final hook in the next video. I'll break down the exact step-by-step blueprint billionaires use to build offshore structures. So if you want to understand the game at a deeper level, you won't want to miss it.